Most of the advice that you hear about self-care, learning to love yourself, practicing self-love, all of this sort of woo-woo stuff is BS. Now, don't get me wrong. There is a lot to be said about like winding down, making sure that you're taking care of yourself, making sure that you're not burning yourself out, right? But there's kind of a toxic undertone to a lot of the stuff that I see in this kind of self-care space, this positivity space. There's even a term for it called toxic positivity, right? Where people are just treating themselves and rewarding themselves, but they're not doing it from the right place. They're doing it to kind of mask the things that are going on in their life, and they're not practicing real self-care. They're not practicing real self-love. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to practice self-love. I'm going to talk about learning to love yourself, and it's not going to have anything to do with taking a bubble bath. It's not going to have anything to do with lighting candles in your room or having a glass of wine. None of that stuff. I'm going to take a totally different angle on the idea of self-love and use it in a way that it applies to everybody. This will be something that will help you learn to have a deeper appreciation for yourself and help you get some of the results that you want in your life. I kind of have the opposite stance of a way to practice self-love than most of the other videos that I see. So most of the videos are like, you take a bath, relax, light some candles, treat yourself. I think the exact opposite strategy is actually a great way to practice self-love, and that is to push yourself physically and mentally, right? So if you really love yourself, you want to think about not just who you are right now, but you want to be able to think about yourself in the long term. So doing some of the things in the present moment that are going to be challenging, that are going to be strenuous, that are going to stretch you outside of your comfort zone, that's how you really take care of yourself, right? Because something interesting happens both to your body and to your mind if you aren't actively pushing yourself and you're not actively challenging yourself, right? So if you don't push yourself physically, literally the muscles and the bones in your body will atrophy. And when you get into old age, you won't be able to support yourself because you haven't been doing some of that challenging and stressful work in your youthful years to take care of yourself when you're older. The same thing happens to your mind. A lot of people, they just kind of tune out from all self-education, all things that challenge and push them beyond what they're trained to do in their job, trained to do in their 9 to 5, trained to do in their life. And then you look up and mentally they are beaten down. They are worn down. They are deficient. Similarly to someone who doesn't push themselves in a physical manner to make sure that they're strong in the future. So one way to show that you really love yourself is to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. It is to make sure that you're always challenging yourself and stretching yourself because you actually pay a penalty for staying stagnant. You actually pay a penalty for not making those improvements in your life. You actually go backwards and get worse. And kind of staying on that theme of, pushing yourself physically and mentally, all that stuff. Another thing that you can do to practice real self-love is to treat yourself like you would treat one of your friends, right? So there's a book called 12 Rules for Life by Jordan Peterson, and one of the chapters in it talks about an interesting phenomena where people will make sure, like if they have pets or their children, things like that, people they have to take care of, if they get a prescription from the doctor or the vet for them, they'll make sure that their child or their pet will get 100% of their medication on time, and they'll make sure they take it because they want them to be as healthy as possible. But then people will often skip their own medication, will skip their own routine, will skip their own advice from doctors. And even sometimes in severe cases, he talked about people who were getting like organ transplants, and then they had to take these pills to make sure that their body wouldn't reject the organs. And some of these people would fail to take their pills and would end up losing those organs and getting sick all over again, right? So why do we do this? Well, some people, all people for the most part are willing to take care of the people around them because, they see themselves outside of those other people and they want to be a provider or a protector for those people. But we don't always do the same for ourselves. We don't always look out for ourselves like a friend would look out for us, like a family member would look out for us. And the reason that is because we know everything about ourselves, right? So it's not like everyone's walking around like super depressed or anything like that. It's just that you know what your flaws are, you know what your deficiencies are, you know what some of the bad things that you've done in your life are, you know the things about yourself that you beat yourself up over. So that kind of subconsciously turns into this behavior pattern where you do all sorts of things that you would never do to a friend. You don't take care of yourself in certain aspects like you would take care of a friend. You don't hold yourself accountable like you would hold a friend accountable. So like if you saw a friend who was making decisions, or you had someone close to you that was making decisions that was going to derail their life, or that was going to make their life worse, you would reach out to them, you would talk to them, you would point it out, you'd try to guide them in the right direction. But often we don't do the same for ourselves. What are some of the things that we do that we would never do to a friend? I mean, look at the way you have that mental chatter in your mind, what you tell yourself, the negative things you tell yourself about whatever it is that you're going through, all the things that you tell yourself about your doubts and your limiting beliefs. Think of how much, all like just cumulatively, all the things that you've said to yourself in your own head that you would never ever say to a friend, because if you were to say it out loud to someone else, it would sound cruel. It would sound super mean, and nobody would want to be your friend if you talk to them that way. So why do you talk to yourself that way? Why do you treat yourself any differently than you would treat someone very close to you, someone you care about, right? And it's an interesting thing when you're trying to manage your own life. On the one hand, you care about yourself more than anybody else in the entire world. You're completely obsessed and self-interested, thinking about what you want to do with your life. But then, for whatever reason, you can't manage your own life with that same level of intensity that you obsess about it with, excuse me. So one way to learn how to treat yourself a little better, how to love yourself, is to try to like step outside of yourself and be your own guide, be your own mentor. So sometimes, that's why I do things like journaling a lot, where I'll kind of have conversations with myself, trying to help myself out. Sometimes, if I'm alone, it might be a little weird. Sometimes I'll have conversations with myself and talk to myself and motivate myself and work through my own problems instead of just being stuck in my head all the time. So pushing yourself to do hard things is a great way to practice self-care. And then stepping outside of yourself and pushing yourself and making sure that you're taking care of yourself as if you were someone else other than you is another great way to make sure that you're practicing self-care. And then another thing that is more kind of on the lighter, positive side, make sure that you're accurately assessing the areas of your life that you're winning. Focus on the areas of your life that you do like. Focus on the things about yourself that you do like. Spend time thinking about all the things that make you happy about your life, and then that'll take a little bit of the pressure off, a little bit of the self-doubt and the anxiety that comes when you're trying to push yourself to a higher level. Like, that's kind of the catch-22 of it all. Like, you want to be improving your life, you want to get better, like you do want to reach new milestones and challenge yourself, but then you don't always want to feel like you're always at this level of deficiency where you need to get somewhere else to feel good about yourself. That's not necessarily true either. It's just that process of stretching yourself kind of gives your brain proof that you care enough about yourself to make those steps. But then at the same time, you can look at yourself in your current life and you can still be content with a lot of things. You could still be happy about a lot of things. You could still be grateful about a lot of things. So I have different practices that I use to make sure that even though I'm chasing new highs and going to new levels of ambition, I'm always staying grounded and thinking about all the things that are already going really well. I take time to write down 3 things I'm grateful for every single day. That's an exercise you could adopt. For those of you who are really dealing with self-doubt and flaws and wondering if you have what it takes, just take some time to actually think about what's going well in your life. Write down 20 things that you like about yourself. Write down 10 things that are going well in your life. Write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And then combine that attitude of knowing that you already have some things that are going really, really well, and knowing that you also want to push yourself to new heights and not give yourself slack and not put yourself in a position where, you know, you're practicing this fake form of self-care where you're just patting yourself on the back for doing nothing. Combine both of those, and that's how you're going to create real self-love. So it's not too much of either end of the spectrum. You're not having to push yourself 100% in order to feel like you matter or like your life is worth something. But then you're not going to be on this other side of the spectrum where you're just practicing self-care and you're just, you know, laying in a bubble bath in the bed for no reason, masking a lot of the things that you need to do and change to make your life better. So everything is about balance. You know, a lot of things in self-help are a little bit contradictory, and you kind of have to hold both thoughts in your mind. So in my mind, self-care is the combination of doing the things for yourself that you know you need to be doing, not letting yourself off the hook, and then also taking time to understand how awesome you already are. Okay, that's it for today's video. Was a little bit rusty, rambled on a little bit, but that's okay. We're still going to publish this video because I love this video. I love me, and I love you too. Make sure to grab my book, Real Help, An Honest Guide to Self-Improvement. This will definitely give you a lot of tough love lessons. There's actually a whole chapter in there kind of about the myths and fallacies of the self-care movement and the real way to approach it. So make sure you check that book out. Wherever you're watching this video, use the tools on that platform to engage with the video, whether that's subscribing to the channel, sharing with your friends on Instagram, Facebook, wherever it may be. Had a blast shooting this one, and I will see you on the next video.